She offered translation for $500. The millionaire didn't expect what came next. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The room smells faintly of fresh coffee and polished wood. Sunlight pours through tall windows, bouncing off a long conference table where printed contracts sit neatly stacked. This is the kind of place where voices are usually calm, confident, and expensive. A place where words carry weight and mistakes cost money. At the far end of the table, a young woman stands with her hands loosely folded. Her jacket is worn at the cuffs, her tote bag resting by her feet. She does not look nervous, but she does look careful, like someone who has learned to measure every move. When she speaks, her voice is steady. "I can translate it," she says, "for $500. For a moment, no one responds. Then a soft laugh breaks the silence. It comes from a man seated slightly apart from the others. He looks relaxed, almost amused, leaning back in his chair as if this meeting is only a brief stop in his day. His suit is simple, not flashy. No one in the room seems to be paying him special attention, and that is exactly how he wants it. $500, he thinks, for a few pages of translation. Around the table, a few heads turn toward the woman. Some eyebrows lift. Someone clears their throat. In a room filled with executives and consultants, her request sounds bold. To some, it sounds ridiculous. The man smiles, just enough to show that he finds the moment entertaining. He does not interrupt. He does not correct her. Instead, he watches. The woman meets the room with calm eyes. She does not rush to explain herself. She does not apologize for the number. $500 is not a challenge. It is a statement. What no one here knows is that the man watching her so closely is not just another guest. He is the reason this meeting exists. He is a self-made millionaire, the silent owner behind the deal on the table. Today, he chose to sit in the background, dressed down, listening more than speaking. He wanted to see how people behaved when they thought power was not watching. And now, unexpectedly, power is listening. The document in question is not simple. It is written in layered language, filled with legal nuance and cultural traps. One wrong word could turn agreement into disaster. That is why the room went quiet when she made her offer. The man's smile fades just a little. Curiosity replaces amusement. "Go ahead," someone says, unsure. The woman nods once. She steps closer to the table, picks up the pages, and begins. Her voice changes the room. She does not translate word for word. She translates meaning. She adjusts tone, clarifies intent, smooths over phrases that could offend, and sharpens clauses that protect both sides. She moves through the text with confidence, pausing only when precision matters most. The man sits forward now. This is not what he expected. Around the table, pens stop tapping, phones lower. The laughter from moments earlier is gone, replaced by something heavier. Respect, surprise, silence. The woman finishes a paragraph and looks up. Calm, grounded, certain. The man feels it then, that quiet jolt in his chest. The moment when a test stops being a game. $500 suddenly sounds cheap, and for the first time since he walked into the room, the millionaire is no longer smiling. The silence in the room does not break right away. The woman lowers the pages gently onto the table, as if placing something fragile down. She does not smile. She does not wait for applause. She simply steps back to where she was standing before, hands folded again, posture calm. $500. That number still hangs in the air. For most people in the room, it is a minor expense. For her, it is not. She feels it in the way her shoulders stay straight, in the way she refuses to explain herself further. She has already done what she came to do. Across the table, the man watches her closely. He has sat through hundreds of meetings like this. He has heard polished translators, overpaid consultants, confident voices that collapse the moment pressure appears. What he just witnessed was different. There was no showing off, no hesitation, just precision. He glances around the table. One executive flips through the document again, slower this time. Another nods without realizing it. Someone clears their throat, then thinks better of speaking. The woman has shifted the balance of the room, and she did it without raising her voice. She does not know it yet, but this is the moment the test truly begins. The man leans back, masking his thoughts. He does not reveal himself, not yet. Instead, he speaks for the first time. "That was accurate," he says casually. But accuracy is not everything. A few heads turn toward him now. The woman looks at him, meeting his eyes without challenge, without submission. "What do you mean?" she asks. "Context," he replies. "Pressure, speed, real-world consequences." He taps the edge of the document with one finger. Anyone can prepare at home. This is different. The implication is clear. A second test. The woman pauses for a brief moment, not because she is unsure, but because she is deciding whether this is worth it. Then she nods once. "Give me the next section," she says. Someone slides another page across the table. This one is worse. Tighter language, ambiguous clauses. The kind of text designed to trap people who rush. The man watches her hands this time. They do not shake. She reads silently for a second, then begins. She adjusts phrases on the fly, explaining differences that are not obvious unless you have lived inside two languages, two systems. She stops once, frowns slightly, then corrects herself out loud. "That sentence would create confusion in court," she says. This version avoids it. She does not say it to prove a point. She says it because it matters. The room is fully quiet now. The man feels something shift inside him. This is no longer about translation. This is about judgment, about character. When she finishes, she looks up again. "That one," she adds, "would cost 500 as well." A few people exchange looks. Someone almost smiles. The man does not. Instead, he studies her face, searching for arrogance, for greed, for insecurity. He finds none of them. What he sees is someone who knows her worth and refuses to apologize for it. He nods slowly. "Fair," he says. Only then does he stand. Chairs scrape softly as people adjust, suddenly aware of his presence. He straightens his jacket, no longer trying to blend in. The shift is subtle, but undeniable. The air in the room changes. The woman notices it too. He looks at her directly now, not as an observer, not as a skeptic, but as a decision maker. "My name is Daniel Harper," he says, "and I believe we owe you an apology." A breath moves through the room. The woman blinks once. She has no idea yet who he really is, but she is about to find out. The room feels different now, not louder, not tense, just sharper. The woman feels it in the way eyes stay on her a second longer than before. She gathers her tote bag and prepares to leave, assuming the moment has passed. Moments like this usually do. People thank you, nod politely, then move on with their real decisions already made. But this time, no one tells her she can go. Daniel Harper gestures toward the empty chair near the table. "Please," he says. "Sit." She hesitates, then sits. Her hands rest on her knees, still, disciplined. She does not ask why. Daniel does not sit back down. He remains standing, looking at the documents, then at her. "You set a price," he says. "Most people in your position would have asked for less, or nothing at all." She looks up at him. "Most people in my position do not get asked again," she replies evenly. A quiet ripple moves through the room. Daniel nods, acknowledging the truth in her words. "Why 500?" he asks. The question is not sharp. It is careful. She takes a breath. Not a dramatic one, just enough to steady herself. "Because that is what my work is worth," she says. "And because today, I need it." The honesty lands heavier than any rehearsed explanation could have. Daniel watches her closely. "Need is dangerous," he says. "It makes people say things they cannot back up." She meets his gaze without flinching. "Only if they are lying." Another pause. Daniel smiles slightly, but this time there is no amusement in it, only interest. "What are you translating right now?" he asks. She glances at the documents. "A deal that will affect more people than anyone in this room is willing to admit," she answers, "which is why accuracy matters." He studies her for a long moment. Then he turns to the others. "Give us the room," Daniel says. No one argues. Chairs slide back. Papers are gathered. One by one, the room empties until only the two of them remain. The door closes softly. The woman feels her pulse quicken, just a little. Daniel finally sits across from her. "Tell me about the $500, he says. She does not answer right away. When she does, her voice is quieter, but no less steady. "My rent is due in 4 days," she says. "My mother works 2 jobs. I do not ask her for help. And I have already been told I am overqualified and underconnected in the same sentence, more times than I can count." Daniel listens. He does not interrupt. "I translate because it is the one thing I do better than anyone around me," she continues. "Not because it is glamorous, not because it is easy." She looks at him directly now. "And today, I did not ask for charity. I asked for fair pay." Daniel exhales slowly. This was supposed to be simple, a quiet test, a moment to confirm what he already believed about people when money was not obvious. Instead, he is sitting across from someone who has just reminded him why he started testing at all. "You know," he says carefully, "most people would have folded after the first laugh." She shrugs. "Most people cannot afford to." The words stay with him. He stands again, walks to the window, then turns back to her. "There is something you should know," he says. She tenses slightly. Daniel pauses, choosing his words. "I'm not here as a guest." He lets that sit. Her eyes narrow, not in fear, but in calculation. "And you're not here by accident," he continues. For the first time since she spoke up, uncertainty flickers across her face. Daniel looks at her, fully now. "This is not the end of the test," he says. "It's the beginning." She swallows once, and waits. Daniel does not explain himself right away. Instead, he returns to the table and gathers the documents into a single stack. He straightens the edges carefully, as if order itself matters. The woman watches him, alert now, every instinct awake. "You came here to translate," he says, "but what you actually did was protect everyone in this room from making a very expensive mistake." She remains silent. Daniel slides one document toward her. "This clause," he continues, pointing to a paragraph she adjusted earlier. "If it had gone through as written, it would have shifted liability in a way no one noticed. Not even the lawyer." Her eyes flick down to the page. She nods once. "Yes," she says. "That is why I stopped." "And if no one had asked you to," Daniel presses. "Then it would still be there," she replies, "waiting to hurt someone later." Daniel exhales slowly. There it is, the reason he stayed undercover. The reason he keeps testing people when they think no one important is watching. Too many professionals do only what they are paid to do. Too few do what is right when no one is forcing them. He leans forward. "What would you have done if they refused to pay you?" She thinks for a moment. "I would have walked out," she says, "and I would have slept badly, knowing they did not listen." He studies her. "But you would have said something." "Yes." "Why?" She looks up at him. "Because I would rather lose money than live with silence." The answer lands hard. Daniel sits back. For the first time since the meeting began, he is no longer testing her skill. He is testing alignment. "You know," he says, "people assume power always announces itself, that it arrives loudly, in expensive suits, in corner offices." She listens carefully. "But real power," he continues, "often hides. It watches. It waits to see who people are when they think no one can reward or punish them." She understands now, at least partly. "You were watching me," she says. Daniel nods. "Yes. And laughing earlier," she adds, her voice steady but cool. "That was part of it too?" He does not deny it. "It was." She holds his gaze. "Then you should know something else." "What is that?" "I was watching you too." That catches him off guard. She continues. "You did not laugh to humiliate me. You laughed to see if I would retreat. And when I did not, you stopped." Daniel says nothing. "You were testing whether I believed my own price," she finishes. A slow smile spreads across his face, not amused, not smug, respectful. "You passed," he says quietly. She does not react the way most people would. No visible relief, no satisfaction, only a slight nod. "What happens now?" she asks. Daniel stands again, this time with purpose. "Now," he says, "we move to the part most people never see." He reaches into his jacket and removes a business card. Simple, white, no title printed beneath his name. Daniel Harper. He places it on the table between them. "This deal," he says, "is mine." The room feels smaller suddenly. She looks at the card, then back at him. You are the decision maker, she says. Yes. Her breathing steadies. Her posture does not change. And the $500? She asks. Daniel smiles faintly. That was never the real cost. He pauses, then adds, but you will be paid. She nods once. Good. He laughs softly now, genuinely. Most people would have asked for more. She meets his eyes. Most people would have been wrong. Daniel feels something settle into place. This is not a job interview, he says, and it is not a favor. She waits. It is an opportunity, he continues, for both of us. She considers his words carefully. Then say it clearly, she replies. What are you offering? Daniel looks at her, fully now. Respect, he says, first. The silence that follows is not empty. It is earned. Daniel does not rush the moment. He remains standing, one hand resting lightly on the back of the chair, giving her space to think. The offer he just made is intentionally incomplete. He wants to see what she does when power does not push. The woman looks down at the business card again. The name is simple. No title. No company logo. But now she understands why the room shifted when he stood. You said respect, she says. That is not a position. Daniel nods. It is the foundation. She considers that. Then she looks up. Foundations are invisible once the building is finished. That is true, he agrees, unless they crack. She exhales softly. I do not want to be a quiet fix, she says. I have been one my entire life. Daniel studies her face, the calm intensity behind her words. Neither do I, he says. That is why I am speaking to you privately, instead of making an announcement in that room. She tilts her head slightly. You want me to choose? Yes. Without pressure. Yes. She leans back in her chair for the first time, allowing herself a breath. Then tell me the truth, she says. What happens if I say no? Daniel answers without hesitation. You walk out with $500 for each section you translated. Nothing more. No consequences. And if I say yes? He pauses. Then you help me prevent mistakes before they happen. You sit at tables where people do not usually invite voices like yours, and you are paid accordingly. Accordingly is vague, she replies. He smiles. You noticed. She does not smile back. Say the number. Daniel names it, calmly, clearly. Her breath catches, just for a fraction of a second. She recovers quickly, but he sees it. The number is not outrageous for him. For her, it is life-altering. That is not fair, she says quietly. It is market value, he responds. You simply have not been allowed into the market. She looks at her hands. People like me do not usually get offers like this without strings. Daniel nods. Then let me be clear about the strings. He sits down across from her. You do not report to me, he says. You report to the work. If something is wrong, you say so, even if it slows things down, even if it costs money. She looks up. And if I embarrass someone important? He meets her gaze. Then I will stand next to you. The words settle between them. She looks away, toward the window now. The city beyond the glass feels distant. For years, she has been invisible inside rooms like this, translating quietly, fixing quietly, leaving quietly. You laughed at me, she says suddenly. Daniel does not deflect. I did. And now you are offering me a seat at your table. Yes. She turns back to him. Why should I trust that this is not another test? He thinks carefully before answering. Because I do not test people twice in the same way, he says. And because you already passed the one that mattered. She studies him, searching for certainty. She does not find promises. She finds alignment. She reaches into her tote bag and pulls out a folded receipt, worn at the edges. This is my rent notice, she says, placing it on the table. 4 days. Daniel does not touch it. I am not showing you this to gain sympathy, she continues. I am showing you because if I accept your offer, it cannot be because I am desperate. He nods once. Agreed. She takes a breath, then another. I will say yes, she says slowly, on one condition. Daniel waits. You do not save me, she says. You hire me. He smiles, fully now. That, he says, was always the point, and she nods. Then we are clear. They stand at the same time. Daniel extends his hand. She shakes it, firm and steady. The deal is not signed. No papers are exchanged. But both of them know. Something has already changed. The announcement does not happen immediately. Daniel walks her out of the conference room first, past the glass walls and quiet hallways where people pretend not to stare. The building hums with normal business again, but she feels detached from it, as if she has stepped into a different current of time. They stop near a smaller meeting space overlooking the street below. "Give me 10 minutes, Daniel says. Then I want you back in that room." She nods. "For what?" "For clarity," he replies. He leaves without another word. She stands alone, breathing slowly, replaying the last hour in her mind. Nothing about this feels rushed, and that unsettles her more than pressure ever did. She has learned how to survive urgency. Patience from powerful people is rarer and more dangerous. When Daniel returns, he is no longer alone. 2 senior executives walk beside him now, their expressions carefully neutral. They nod politely at her, with a new kind of attention, not curiosity, recognition. Daniel opens the door and gestures for her to enter first. The conference room fills again. Chairs are pulled closer to the table. Phones are silenced. The atmosphere has shifted from negotiation to disclosure. Daniel does not sit. "I want to address something," he says to the room. "Earlier today, some of you witnessed a moment you assumed was insignificant." A few people glance toward her. "It was not," he continues. "It was a demonstration of competence under pressure, and more importantly, integrity." He turns toward her. "You identified a flaw no one else caught. You did not exaggerate it. You did not exploit it. You corrected it." Silence. "That is the kind of judgment this company needs," Daniel says. "Effective immediately, she will be joining us as a language and risk consultant on this deal." A low ripple moves through the room. She feels the weight of the words settle on her shoulders. Consultant, not assistant, not temporary help. Daniel keeps going. "She will be compensated at a rate that reflects her expertise," he says. "Not her background, not her network, her expertise." One of the executives clears his throat. "Daniel," he says carefully, "this is highly unconventional." Daniel nods. "So were the mistakes we almost made." No one argues further. Daniel turns back to her. "Would you like to say anything?" She had not expected that. She steps forward slowly. Every instinct tells her to minimize herself, to keep it brief, to disappear politely. She does not. "I did not come here expecting this," she says. "I came here expecting to be ignored." A few people shift uncomfortably. "But I am not here because of luck," she continues, "and I am not here because someone felt generous." She looks directly at the table. "I am here because my work speaks clearly," she says, "and I intend to keep it that way." She steps back. Daniel nods once, satisfied. The meeting resumes, but it is no longer the same. People listen differently now. Questions are sharper, decisions slower, more deliberate. Her presence changes the rhythm, and everyone feels it. When it finally ends, the room empties again. Daniel waits until they are alone. "You handled that well," he says. She exhales. "You put me on the spot." "Yes," he admits, "because respect does not exist in private only." She considers that. "Thank you," she says, then adds, "for not speaking for me." Daniel smiles faintly. "You did not need it." He reaches into his pocket and places an envelope on the table. "Your initial fee," he says, $500 per section, as agreed. She opens it, counts quickly, then closes it. "This does not change the rest," she says. "It was never meant to," Daniel replies. She nods. As she leaves the building, the city feels louder, brighter, sharper. She is still the same person, but the world has finally adjusted its volume around her. And Daniel watches from the window, knowing this was only the beginning. The first real tension does not come from the work. It comes 3 days later. She is seated at the long table again, laptop open, notes neatly arranged. The pace of the meetings has changed since she joined. Fewer assumptions, more pauses. People ask her to weigh in before decisions are finalized. It is subtle, but real, and not everyone is comfortable with it. A senior partner named Richard sits across from her, fingers steepled, eyes sharp. He has not spoken directly to her since the announcement, until now. "This clause," Richard says, tapping the screen projected on the wall, slows the timeline by at least 2 weeks. That delay could cost us millions. She looks at the clause, then at him. It could also save us from litigation, she replies calmly, which would cost more. Richard smiles thinly. That is speculative. She keeps her voice even. So is assuming no one will challenge it. The room goes quiet. Daniel watches from the end of the table, saying nothing. Richard leans back. You are new here, he says. You might not fully understand how these decisions are made. She feels the familiar pressure rise in her chest, the unspoken warning. Do not push. Do not embarrass someone powerful. She chooses her words carefully. I understand how language creates leverage, she says, and how ignoring it creates risk. Richard's smile fades. So you were telling us to ignore experience, he asks. No, she answers. I am telling you to respect evidence. The tension thickens. Daniel finally speaks. Richard, he says quietly, she is doing exactly what we asked her to do. Richard turns to him. Daniel, with respect, this is not what we agreed to. Daniel meets his gaze. It is exactly what we agreed to. The meeting moves on, but the air stays charged. Afterward, as people filter out, Richard approaches her near the door. You should be careful, he says softly. Opportunities like this disappear as quickly as they appear, and she looks at him steadily, only if they were never meant to exist. He pauses, then walks away. That evening she sits alone in her apartment, the city humming outside her window. The envelope with the initial payment rests on the table, unopened now. She has paid her rent. The immediate pressure is gone, but something else has taken its place. She thinks of Richard's words, of the looks exchanged in the room, of how easily support can become silence when power is challenged. Her phone buzzes, a message from Daniel. Are you all right? She considers lying. It would be easier. I am fine, she types, then deletes it. I am thinking, she writes instead. His reply comes quickly. Good. That means you are seeing clearly. They meet the next morning in a quiet office overlooking the street. Daniel closes the door behind them. Richard is not wrong about one thing, he says. This role will test you. She nods. I expected that. What you might not expect, he continues, is how often people will try to make you doubt yourself. She meets his eyes. I have lived with that my entire life. Daniel studies her. Then let me ask you something important. She waits. If this becomes uncomfortable, he says, if the pressure increases, if people resist your presence, will you stay? She answers without hesitation. Yes. Even if it costs you? She pauses, just long enough to be honest. I did not come here for comfort, she says. I came here to matter. Daniel exhales slowly. This is the moment he needed to hear. Good, he says, because the real test was never about translation. She raises an eyebrow. Then what was it about? Daniel looks at her steadily. Whether you would stand your ground when respect became inconvenient. She nods once. Outside, the city continues as it always has. Inside, lines have been drawn, and both of them know the hardest part is still ahead. The shift does not happen in a meeting room. It happens in the quiet accumulation of days. She arrives early and leaves late, not to prove anything, but because the work demands it. She listens more than she speaks, but when she does speak, the room adjusts. Documents come to her before they go to legal. Questions are phrased differently now, with an awareness that language is no longer an afterthought. Not everyone resists openly. Some people resist by smiling too much, by agreeing quickly, then ignoring her suggestions later. Others test her patience with small dismissals, subtle enough to deny if challenged. She notices all of it. One afternoon, Daniel asks her to review a revised draft prepared overnight by a separate team. She reads it slowly, then stops. This was changed back, she says. Daniel looks at the page. Yes. It reintroduces the same risk, she continues, just phrased more politely. Daniel nods. Richard signed off on it. She exhales through her nose. Then he's hoping politeness will hide liability. Daniel watches her carefully. What do you want to do? She looks up. We address it directly, in writing, before it moves forward. That will delay things, he says. Yes, she replies, and it will protect us. Daniel considers her words. Then he pushes the document back toward her. Draft the response, he says. I will support it. This time, when the email goes out, it does not come from her alone. Daniel attaches his name to it. The reply comes quickly, defensive, sharp, but careful. Richard wants a call. They sit across from each other again, this time in a smaller room. No audience, no pretense. You are slowing this deal down, Richard says. She meets his gaze. I am preventing it from unraveling. You are making enemies, he adds. She remains calm. I am making outcomes clearer. Richard scoffs softly. You think clarity always wins? She does not answer immediately. When she does, her voice is steady. I think avoiding truth always loses. Daniel watches the exchange without interrupting. The call ends without resolution, but the revised clause remains. That evening, Daniel finds her still at her desk. You could have softened that, he says. She nods. I chose not to. He studies her face. You understand what that costs. Yes, she replies, but I also understand what it buys. He sits across from her. Which is? She looks at the screen, then back at him. Trust, from the work itself. Daniel smiles faintly. You know, he says, most people think leadership is about being liked. She shakes her head. It is about being clear. He leans back. This is why I asked you to stay. She hesitates. Asked is generous. He meets her eyes. You chose. That matters to both of them. Weeks pass. The deal progresses more slowly but more solidly. Errors disappear. Questions sharpen. The tone of the room changes. One afternoon, Daniel hands her a folder. What is this, she asks. A proposal, he says, for a longer-term role. She opens it, scanning the pages. The scope is broader, the authority clearer, the compensation unmistakable. She closes the folder. This is not about translation anymore, she says. No, Daniel agrees. It is about judgment. She considers him. And what happens when my judgment conflicts with yours? He answers without hesitation. Then we talk, and we decide together. She studies his face, searching for the test. She does not find one. She nods once. Then I accept. Daniel extends his hand. She shakes it. This time it is not a deal born of necessity. It is a partnership shaped by earned respect. Outside the window, the city moves forward. Inside, so do they. The deal closes on a quiet afternoon. There is no celebration, no applause, just a final review, a series of signatures, and a shared understanding that something solid has been built. The conference room looks the same as it did on the first day, but it feels different now, calmer, grounded. She stands at the window for a moment after everyone leaves, watching traffic move steadily below. Weeks ago, she was an afterthought in rooms like this. Today, her name appears on the documents as a permanent part of the process. Daniel joins her, holding a thin folder. It is done, he says. She nods. It was done the moment people started listening. He smiles at that. They sit across from each other one last time before the room is cleared. Daniel opens the folder and slides something across the table. It is a single sheet of paper, neatly framed. She looks down. Inside the frame is a $500 bill, the same amount she named on the first day. She looks up, surprised. You kept it. Daniel nods. It reminded me of something important. Which is? She asks. That value does not announce itself, he says. It stands its ground and waits. She studies the frame, then shakes her head softly. People laughed at that number. They laughed because it challenged them, Daniel replies, not because it was wrong. She leans back in her chair. You know, I almost did not say it. What stopped you? She thinks for a moment. If I had asked for less, I would have spent the rest of my time here trying to prove I deserved more. Daniel nods. And instead, you made them prove you wrong. They sit in silence for a moment. Outside, the city continues to move. Deals close. People hurry. Most moments pass unnoticed. Daniel breaks the quiet. I am glad you stayed. She looks at him. I am glad you listened. He smiles. That is rarer than it should be. She stands and picks up her tote bag, the same one she carried into the room weeks ago. It looks smaller here now, but it has not changed. She has. As they walk toward the exit, Daniel stops. "One more thing," he says. She turns. "You never told me your name," he adds. She smiles slightly. "You never asked." He waits. "My name is Elena," she says. "Thank you, Elena," Daniel replies, "for charging $500. She laughs softly, the sound light and unguarded. "It was never about the money." "I know," he says. "That is why it mattered." They step out into the hallway together. Colleagues nod as they pass, no longer curious, no longer dismissive, simply aware. As Elena leaves the building, she pauses on the steps and looks back once. The glass reflects her clearly now, not as someone trying to belong, but as someone who already does. Inside, Daniel returns to his office and places the framed bill on the shelf behind his desk, not as a trophy, as a reminder. Power does not come from wealth alone. It comes from recognizing value when it speaks quietly. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is the courage to name your price and the integrity to stand by it. The story does not end with applause. It ends with respect, and that is what lasts.